So, I think this year has been a bit of a roller coaster ride for the Nintendo Switch 2 and what to expect. I mean, as of just 1 month ago, a lot of people came into 2024 expecting a soonish Switch 2 reveal with a fall or winter release date. That all changed about 2 weeks ago, though, because several outlets has since reported that they had heard Nintendo briefed third-party companies that they are delaying the Switch successor into early 2025. This is allegedly an internal delay, meaning that Nintendo never made a release date public for consumers, but their internal plans, which was shared with third-party companies, was originally to release sometime this year. Well, we got some new information today about that from a report that's coming out of Japan. Now, we do have a few other things to talk about as well, including a Pokemon rumor and also an Xbox controversy, which is quite frankly bizarre. We really do live in an outrage culture because just wow, people get mad about all kinds of things. But you know what? Let's just go and jump right into it. So this Nintendo Switch 2 report that's been blowing up online all day long is coming from Nikkei. This is a respected Japanese outlet, and when they post things like this, yeah, people pay attention, and that's why this report has been gaining so much traction online. Even still, though, at the end of the day, it's important for me to kind of remind people that this is still an unverified report. So you can kind of take all of this as you will, but what did they actually say, and why is there so much buzz around this report? Well, let's just go and take a look here and see what this report says. It says Nintendo to launch Switch console successor in March 2025 at earliest. Then goes on to say that Japanese gaming titan Nintendo will launch the successor of its mega hit Switch console as early as March 2025, later than widely expected, Nikkei has learned. The new console will likely have a feature to be used as a handheld similar to the Switch and utilize a bigger display panel. We've talked about this before. It is widely rumored to have an 8-inch LCD display. They continued on to say, though, that the market watchers have largely expected the new gaming console to be out within this year, but the Japanese company has prioritized streamlining the initial sales of the new machine and giving more time to game developers to create popular titles. This is really where I think the report gets interesting, though, because this next part is new information if true. They said that when Nintendo launched the Switch in March of 2017, the initial shipment was insufficient to meet consumers' high demand, resulting in shortage and rampant reselling. The Japanese company also faced a lack of software for the new console, with only 3 Nintendo-developed titles. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that part, but they also said that as the company hopes to avoid such a situation this time, the launch of the Switch's successor could be further pushed back depending on the progress in establishing production capability and developing key titles that affect initial sales. So, more or less, what this report tells us is that Nintendo is concerned about 2 different things. One, and I think that this is fairly obvious, they want to make sure that they have a killer lineup for the Switch successor launch. I mean, when you look back at why the Nintendo Switch has been so successful this generation, it really all started during their first year in 2017. They were coming off the Wii U, which has been one of the biggest failures that we've seen from the big 3. And, it was amazing to see because they immediately eradicated any kind of lingering concern coming off of that generation. They did this by showcasing their first-party prowess. They loaded their first year with absolutely excellent games. I mean, they dropped Zelda Breath of the Wild day 1. They ported over games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, one of their most successful exclusives ever made. They dropped Mario Odyssey during its launch year. There was also Xenoblade 2. They had Splatoon 2, Mario Plus Rabbids, and just so much more. They legitimately had one of the best launch years in the history of gaming, and I think that's something that Nintendo is concerned about. Can they replicate the Switch's success? And if they're going to achieve that, well, then it's important for them to have another great lineup of games, including a big release right out of the gate, similar to what they had in Zelda Breath of the Wild. So that part of the report does make sense. It sounds like they're giving their first-party studios a little extra time rather than just simply forcing them out in 2024. It's important that these games are polished and are well received because that's when fans will really buy into the hype. Hypothetically, let's just say that a new 3D Mario comes out and also Metroid Prime 4. If these games are polished and are a part of their launch lineup and they receive a 90+ score on Metacritic, that's going to grab a lot of attention and it's going to make a lot more people want to buy into their next console. As for the other reason for this internal delay, though, this is something that I find very interesting. This report suggested that Nintendo is concerned about scalping, which is not a great experience for fans or really console makers either. People sometimes forget this, but scalping is actually a problem for the console makers, and the reason for that is because it keeps legitimate consumers away from buying their games. And that's where these companies make their money. Not necessarily on hardware, but rather by selling their software. And scalpers aren't the ones buying games. So when scalpers buy up all this stock, that does hurt these companies to a degree as it slows down their process of selling games to legitimate customers. And that's all the more reason for Nintendo to keep this from happening as much as they possibly can. It sounds like what they want to do is flood the market right out of the gate. And hey, that's a great thing for fans. I know for me, that's always my biggest concern with any new console. It's just stressful trying to actually buy them. It's just not a fun experience. These new consoles should always be exciting and all of that, but buying new consoles anymore has just not been a fun overall experience for fans. But hopefully Nintendo can solve this issue. Nonetheless, I do understand that not everybody is necessarily happy by these reports, but it does increasingly sound like Nintendo will launch the Switch 2 in early 2025 at the earliest. That is another part to this report. It does indicate that the March release date is not set in stone. Depending on the situation, it could actually launch later than that. Hopefully that won't be the case, but currently, as of today, I'm not really against the reasoning for this delay. It's important for Nintendo to absolutely nail this launch. This is a console that you're probably going to rely on for the next 7 to 8 years. And sure, I want the Switch 2 sooner rather than later, but if delaying it means that we get better games right away, and if they can also shut down scalpers at the same time, I'm honestly fine with it. I can wait a little bit longer. Let me know what you all think about this report, though. Are you okay with these plans, or do you even believe them in the first place? I know there's been some skepticism with these 2025 reports, so let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay, so another thing that we're hearing right now, and I'm going to kind of make this brief just because we could get our answer as early as tomorrow on Pokemon Day, but there is a rumor going around that a new Pokemon Unova game is in development. Now, for those who don't know, the Unova region is the black and white generation, one of my favorites actually, and I think is a fantastic character. And interestingly, this is coming from the most respected Nintendo leak around, Pyoro. Pyoro, as of right now, has been 100% accurate every single time, though it is important to note that this rumor is a little bit different. Now, the reason for that, we can really just kind of read here. Pyoro said, "I don't know anything about the Pokemon Presents, while heard of an outsourced Unova-related game. The info was from last year, so it may turn out to be inaccurate." In which somebody responded, Pyoro being straightforward and not speaking in riddles, "This is both shocking and extremely disappointing, and now I'm very curious as to what's going on." And then Pyoro responded by saying, "This is not a leak and should be taken with a grain of salt. I'm just sharing something I'm aware of." So this is the first time that Pyoro has claimed something that they aren't 100% certain about. So do take this information as a rumor and not necessarily a confirmation. But considering their accuracy in the past, I thought I would at least share it with you all. And, this also kind of gives me an excuse to let you know that a new Pokemon Presents will go live tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So do tune in for that if you're interested in the latest Pokemon news. I guess if I had one wish for a Pokemon Black and White remake, though, this is probably not going to happen, but I kind of like to see them experiment with HD 2D visuals. I think that would be absolutely excellent. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. Okay, so let's go and talk about this latest Xbox controversy, though. It's really just been one thing after another with them this year, and this time it's about the PlayStation 5 version of Pentiment. So apparently, Pentiment right now is running at 120 frames per second on the PlayStation 5, but it's locked to 60 FPS on Xbox. So it's just this weird situation where Xbox fans are mad because they claim that Xbox is treating them like second-class citizens, and then PlayStation fans are boasting because their version has a higher refresh rate. I mean, honestly, both sides just need to kind of cool it here. This is such a bizarre topic to console war over. Here's the good news, though. Obsidian's Josh Sawyer did confirm that this is only a bug. You can see here what Josh Sawyer said: 120 frames per second will be enabled for Xbox in the next patch. It being disabled is just a bug. So yeah, everybody can just kind of put their imaginary swords away. This is nothing to be mad about or really even to brag about. It's just a bug, and it will be fixed. I have a feeling that probably nobody was really even paying attention to its frame rate until today, but Obsidian did also confirm that the 120 frames per second option for Pentiment was planned to release at the same time on Xbox alongside the PlayStation 5, but yeah, apparently there's just some kind of unforeseen bug, which is the reason why it's not there right now. I don't know, though. To see console war stuff surround Pentiment out of all games, it's just kind of crazy to me. I know some Xbox fans have been frustrated over games being ported over to other platforms, and I do understand that with some games like Hi-Fi Rush as an example, but truthfully, Pentiment, this is a very small game, albeit very high quality, but if any game deserves a chance at more recognition, I'd say that's Pentiment. This is not a system or subscription seller. Its audience is incredibly niche, and because of that, the more platforms that it's on is for the better. Truthfully, if you want Xbox to be able to take more chances on smaller games like this, and I mean, we're talking about incredibly niche games here, well, then this is something that theoretically helps with that goal. Now, we did also get an update for Dragon's Dogma 2 and its performance situation. There's been a lot of concern and mixed reports regarding its frame rate. Originally, there was a rumor going around that it would be locked at 30 FPS on consoles, to which then the Dragon's Dogma director responded by saying that's not actually the case. Instead, according to him, it has an uncapped frame rate, though they're still not being too specific with its stability, and that does beg the question if it is stable or not, and how close it comes to 60 frames per second on a consistent basis. Well, a new report by Lords of Gaming shed some new light on this topic. They claimed that during their playtest last year, that it ran at mostly 60 frames per second on a PlayStation 5 with some inconsequential dips. They claimed that on average it ran at 59.50 frames per second, though they did note that this is anecdotal because they haven't played the entire game and they were playing an older build of Dragon's Dogma 2. Even still, though, I feel like this is relieving to hear, and if anything else, if you have a VRR ready display, then Dragon's Dogma 2 might be a prime game to use that feature on. Now, one last thing before I go, we did get a release date for Bo Path of the Teal Lotus. This is a game that I've had on my radar for a few years. I'd say that right now it is one of the most exciting upcoming Metroidvanias. Its gameplay seems inspired by the Ori franchise and how its platforming works, which that immediately has me interested. I love the Ori franchise, and I'm kind of curious to see their take on a game like that. I mean, if the visuals are anything to go by, Bo looks absolutely stunning. It's based on Japanese folklore. It does have that Okami-like art style to it. And, well, now you can go and mark your calendars for July 18th. So, there you go. Set to come to PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo as well. So, everybody will be able to play it come this July, and hopefully it lives up to its potential, because if it can, we might be in for a real treat. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know what you all think about the new Switch 2 report and the supposed reasoning for its internal delay. But until next time, peace out.